There is so much disinformation happening on this planet. And you can think, well, everyone has to wake up in their own time, and you cannot wake anyone up by telling them the truth. And that is true. But what is also true is there is a massive amount of disinformation happening that is stopping people from being able to wake up without a guide of some sort, or without being told some amount of a truth. Personally, I never believed in anything. I had doubt. I had a massive amount of doubt about everything. About God, about religion, everything. About why this world was so messed up. I didn't understand. And I went through not a massive amount of trauma, but the trauma that I went through affected me greatly, and then caused more trauma to be created. I mean, really by myself, but I had there was nothing else. I was not healed, so it wasn't like I was doing it on purpose. I went through periods of despair and fear. As a very young child, 2 years old, I told my grandparents that World War III was coming and that they were going to destroy our Earth. I was very attached to the Earth. I loved the Earth very much. And the thought of people hurting the planet and hurting nature really, really bothered me. As I was growing up, I got seemingly downloads about the future. I felt that the end of the world was coming. I didn't know what else to call it, because what was being shown to me, or it was almost like I was figuring it out, but there was no way that I could be figuring it out, so it was kind of like downloads. What I was shown was that there were going to be cataclysmic events. Not just World War III type stuff, but cataclysmic events. And I had dreams of a tsunami, hitting the East Coast. Specifically, I had a dream of New York City being hit by a massive wave. And in that dream, in New York City was this huge pyramid that had these red spotlights on it. And the pyramid had no top. It had no capstone. And then this huge wave came and hit the city, and I could see how the wave crashed gradually because water was shooting through. You know how New York City is like a grid pattern? It was going down street after street after street after street. And it was like one by one, the streets flooded and water just gushed through them. I also was having downloads this was when I was in high school. This was early 2000s. I graduated high school in 2004. It was like I believed I needed to build a bunker to get away from the things that would happen when all of these other things happened. I was very, very afraid. I was very, very afraid, and I was trying to prepare for the chaos that would ensue if these things happened, because I knew that people would go insane. I knew that people would start to turn on each other, that resources would be scarce, that medicines would be scarce, and I knew what that would cause. In my freshman year of high school, I saw someone shoot themselves in front of me while I was at their house. It was a friend of my boyfriend and I, and us and a couple of our other friends were at his house, and he had a gun, and he always had the gun, and we knew about it because we knew his reasoning for having the gun, and we understood it. But that day, he was very high. He was in the methadone clinic, and he was also using benzos that day, and he was really out of it. And he had already dropped the gun, and the gun landed on the floor, like pointing at me. Then the boys asked him to unload it, and he went in the bedroom and acted like he had taken the bullets out of it. But a little while later, he put the gun in his mouth, and he pulled the slide back, and it immediately went off in his mouth, and he died immediately. And that trauma is what led me, it really messed me up. I felt like the world was going to end the next day. It was incredibly traumatic to my nervous system, and it was just terrifying. I was terrified, as one would be. I had already kind of been dabbling in opiates, but not very strong opiates, like my friends were like snorting Vicodin every once in a while and stuff, and I had done that. But I was very anti-drugs then. I was pretty against weed until my freshman year, when I moved to a new place, and everyone that I started hanging out with, they all like smoked weed and like did other things, and so I at first really wasn't okay with it, and I didn't know what to think, but I quickly jumped right in. So really what I'm trying to get is I started using opiates after this trauma, like strong opiates. And I remained in addiction for 10 years of my life. During this 10 years, there were still premonitions going on There were still these feelings that the world was going to end, but I just didn't know what to do about it. It was too much for me, and no one in my family cared. They did not listen to me, and they're very avoidant people. And now that I realize it, they are narcissistic personalities. Because really, to a lot of us, all of the signs have been there that something was going to happen. Or could happen, I guess. For a while in the past little while, past maybe 5 years or so, I have thought that it wasn't going to happen anymore. I have been thinking that something has changed, that the timelines have changed, and that these cataclysms and this end of the world scenario wasn't actually going to happen. I have learned during my awakening that there have been certain things to try and stop those cataclysms from happening. That there's this story that star seeds were born all over the earth so they could take in the frequencies of the sun, and that these cataclysms wouldn't happen if those star seeds remained in place and were able to help the earth transmute the high frequencies, which would have been what caused these cataclysms. Eventually, I realized that this is kind of the same thing that happened in Atlantis. That our sun is on a cycle, and that this sun cycle is what causes these floods and these cataclysms at the end of these cycles. But something is supposed to be different this time. From the new information that I accessed, that I learned, that other people already knew. And it seemed that ascension of consciousness was supposed to be part of what stopped these cataclysms from happening. But even up until a couple years ago, I was getting information that I should leave the East Coast. And I've always known where I was supposed to go were the Rockies. I recently watched a video about Dolores Cannon and Edgar Cayce and their premonitions and prophecies of these cataclysms, and that the Rockies are supposed to be safe. So during this awakening, this shift in frequency of myself, I have experienced incredible interference and targeting. What seems to be targeting by people. I've also experienced a twin flame who was very, very toxic to me, who did not deserve my power to be given to him because of how he treated me, and who also has misused his power to try and dominate me by manipulating me into having a relationship with him and going back to him over and over and over and over. And if it's not him, then another masculine entity, being, comes in and does the same thing, just with a different personality. They siphon my energy. They try and mess with my head. They take what they want, and they often try to demonize me. Now, I have had to learn about narcissistic abuse and narcissistic personalities because of this. And in that process, I realized that my family treated me the same way. Very, very similarly. I have had no one else to go to for help because I was in a state where I couldn't really care for myself. And any time that I would try to get a job, I would also be targeted at those jobs. I used to believe that it was because I was a drug addict, and it was because of my energy, that my energy was just bad, that I was causing some sort of chaos, and that I would just get ejected from these systems and businesses because of me. But fast forward the last few years, I have healed so much, and I have tried to start working again. The damage from the PTSD and the narcissistic abuse was so severe that I could barely take care of myself. And in the past few years, I have healed immensely. Now, I've been in a place where I felt very happy at first. The town that I live in, at first, I felt very happy. I had already gone through many formative experiences of death and rebirth, and I happened to be very close to my Pluto line. So I had already been prepared for living on my Pluto line. So instead, well, it's not that bad thing. It's not that the death and rebirth hasn't continued. It has, and there have been it's not a positive energy place necessarily. There's some really dark energy here. But if you do research about Pluto lines, living on Pluto lines, you will often find corruption. You will often be abused, be targeted. But my inner world and my inner experience has been really positive, and I have done a lot of healing here. I actually finally found happiness and joy. But I have also dealt with men that have been attempting to siphon my energy, screw with my head, steal my abundance through siphoning my energy, and through tampering with my frequency by trying to threaten me and scare me and keep me in states of negativity and being afraid and paranoid. It has been a massive juxtaposition to be existing here. And really, it's just the same pattern that happened with my twin flame. So it's like cycles and cycles of these adversaries coming into my life that I just got back, that I just managed to heal. And the feelings of that the world was going to end stopped. The premonitions stopped. The information coming from the sun telling me that I need to get out of here stopped. And maybe I just didn't listen, and that was the last time the sun was going to tell me the truth. I'm not sure, because I've been really trying to push the envelope with this. Because in my logic, if I am a pillar, they call starseeds pillars of light. earth angels, star seeds, whatever you want to call us. People with higher frequencies that are connected to the spiritual realm, that have certain sixth senses. We are the ones that are supposed to intake these frequencies and help them be put back into the earth, so the earth doesn't take it all on at once and then quake. We're the ones that are here to save the rest of humanity, basically. And not so basically, because it's a very complex mission going on. So by that logic, that means I don't have to go anywhere. That means I need to stay right here and help this part of the world intake these frequencies. But I was fine here for a couple years. I was happy, just getting happier and happier. And then these local men started, well, there was never anyone outside my apartment. I never really, I didn't even really go outside for a while. But then I noticed that there's no one ever using that yard. So then I decided to take my dog out there and play with him there, instead of going for walks around a town that really kind of, the energies scare me. Well, it's like there's some negative energy here and I can feel it. And so I would prefer to stay in areas that I feel comfortable. But after a little while, a man started sitting outside. There is a bar downstairs, and it is a social club for only men. Men who have to believe in God to join the social club. If you know, you know. So I guess maybe I'm going to have to say it. They're Masons. It's a Masonic club. I believe the person who created this building, or created this club, last name was Lafayette, and I believe they were a Mason. Before I moved to this town, we'll back up a little bit. Before I moved to this town, I have met multiple beings who I thought were possibly my twin flame. Because the first being that I met that I thought was my twin flame, I thought was a false flame because of how he treated me. So I thought, well, I have to have a real one then. If you listen to the things that you learn on the internet about this, you'll be informed that, oh, there's a real one out there. So I met several that I thought were the real one, and they never were. They were always more devilish, trickster-like men. And I never knew it at first because they always have a high frequency around them. And then they start sucking the life out of you. You start giving your power away to them, and you wither away. They often do not pour back into you. They have all been basically narcissists. So I met one of these guys in 2020. And I kind of thought that we even looked alike a little bit. We were the same size. I'm a very small person. And I was like, maybe this is him. Maybe this is the real one. He was a very kind person. He liked to help people out. He had, people staying at his house. He had this huge house with many acres of land. And he had said that he wanted to help humanity. He wanted to start a farm. He wanted to like have people live there with him. But when I got there, things were absolutely chaotic. He was thinking that all these people were out to get him, and I personally had already experienced some weird stuff that really falls under the umbrella of gang stalking, but I had been just trying to ignore it. And then when I met him and he told me the things that he was aware of, I realized that there was so much fuckery going on in reality that it is absolutely insane and almost impossible to track. So the men living there, well, two of them and another one who had just, he was really, it seems, he was really kind of trying to be a handler to this guy that I liked. He got them all to join the Masons. They all claimed that they had joined the Masons. I did not like the Masons because I do not like cults. I don't like cliques. I don't like secret societies. I think it's that those things are part of what's ruining the earth. It's just simply not unity consciousness. So I naturally don't feel good about those things. And any sort of fraternal only brotherhood, I find suspicious to begin with. I had always questioned the Bible and why they treated women, they talked about women that way, they treated women that way, and why Mary Magdalene was portrayed the way she was portrayed. I always felt that it was false. And meeting my twin flame really proved that my senses were correct on that. And when I explain this, many people who are worshiping Saturn's cube and the demiurge will absolutely hate me and think that I am crazy and full of shit. But nothing should happen to me, and nothing should happen to women like it's happened to me. And also, nothing should happen to me, and I should not be martyred to create a new myth. I have stood up against these networks of fallen masculines who are using their power, their godlike power, for negative things. When you come from certain lineages, you have spiritual powers that are unlike other people's. And the people from these lineages have been misusing them on high and the regular normal person who is just from one of those lineages. It goes all the way up to Hollywood and government. I have met many of these men, many of them, who misuse their power and siphon off of women and abuse children, some of them. Some of them are involved in networks of cult activity that harm children and women and sell people into slavery and literally blood harvesting, it seems. So things did not work out with this guy that I had met. They all joined the Masons. I was really triggered by it. I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And they were like, if you can't beat them, join them. And I was just like, yeah, no. I had my camper at this guy's house because I was still believing it was the end of the world. And I needed to figure out a place and a way to be mobile and also have a roof over my head. And he ended up selling my camper and all of my belongings inside of it in 2021. It had been on his property for maybe 6 months. The relationship with him really didn't go well. And it was like the third narcissistic relationship that I had had in just a few years. Since, say, 2016, which is when I met my twin flame, who supposedly. Because after that, it was just mirrors and mirrors and mirrors, meaning people that mirrored my experience and things about me, people that you would think were a twin flame, but they aren't. And I now know it is the demiurge. There is very little help on this path, and it is very harrowing. So in 2021, I moved into a hotel room, basically for that winter. Or in 2020, I moved into a hotel room for that winter. Sorry, like, time is really weird for me. And one of the men that had joined the Masons showed up at my hotel room door with a loaded semi-automatic weapon, pointing it at me, saying strange things, wanting to know from me what the truth was. And I was like, I thought that's why you joined your little group there. Weren't they going to tell you the truth? And he was drunk, and he didn't make much sense. I simply put my hand on his gun and pointed it back towards the ground and said, "I'm sorry, sir, you can't bring that in here." And he unloaded it. A bullet fell out on the ground, and he took the clip out. And then I let him in my hotel room. And he proceeded to ask me weird fucking questions. And I was like, I really don't know what you're talking about. And then he left. And ever since then, I've been pretty fucked up about the Masons in general. I've also met many children of people that were in this group who are not in it themselves, but were oppressed demonically and energetically and emotionally. They were going through bouts of deep despair. And I have always worried about them and been concerned for them every time I meet one of these people. So fast forward, I move into this apartment in this town. And for a little while, things are going okay. Of course, I keep trying to go back to my original twin flame, and it goes terribly. He is incredibly toxic and cruel and just does not care. He just drinks and, like, he's so chaotic. The energy around him is absolute chaos. And so I couldn't stay with him again and again and again. But then I would be pushed back towards him by signs, symbols, 1111 everywhere, all of these things, feelings that happen through reality, because he is trying to call me back towards him. And he has an incredible amount of power. Eventually, I go through so many cycles with other narcissists, friends, family, that I finally learned to just stay away from everyone, to just keep to myself. And I call all of my energy back and my power back. Well, as much as I can. And whenever I try and speak the truth, I start yawning, and I don't understand why. Because we're approaching a point where these stories need to be told. There are many people being targeted, and it's incredibly wrong. And if anything does happen to me, like they seem to be planning to attempt, which is not a holy and divine path, it's simply being targeted and martyred, possibly by an alien race that wants to keep control of this planet. So I finally am happy. I finally have taken all of my power back. I've figured out to stay the fuck away from people, to just focus on myself. And I'm happy. And no one is outside of my house. These men don't hang out in the yard. I hadn't even really realized that I was living above a Masonic bar, of another social club that seems to be Masonic in nature. And I'm only guessing that the person who created it was a Mason. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because really, it's just for people to hang out. Just men go down there, drink beer, and talk to each other, and play these dumb gambling games. But eventually, a man starts sitting outside. I had not seen him. I had been living here 2 years, and I had never seen him. And at the time, I still used cannabis, which I have recently stopped using. And he introduced himself to me. Then he would smoke joints with me. And I have just been basically a fountain of the truth. And I will just tell people the truth about what I've experienced, about what's been happening to me. Because honestly, I think it's the best way to go. Because I already had what I believe are entities that were telling me I was going to die, I was going to die, I was going to die, the end of the world thing as well. But it never really, it was like, you're going to die and the world's going to end. And it's like, cool, well, one or the other, either way, my story might as well be told. So I'm just honest most of the time with people. I told him the truth, and he started saying things. He pretended to be my friend, acted like he wanted to help me out or look out for me or something, because I told him about many of the experiences that I've had of men not looking out for me, and in fact doing quite the opposite. But then he started to say things in our conversations. He told me that I needed to be armed. He told me that some people don't want the truth to be known. I would talk about Christ, because I had an experience with Christ in 2016 before I met my twin flame. And I asked Source for my twin flame that night, totally not knowing that I was not ready for that at all. he said that he kind of likes the Mayan religion, the one where they do human sacrifice. He has continued to say creepy things to me. Told me I needed to be armed, told me some people don't want peace, some people don't want the truth to be known. Because I spoke about the divine feminine, and I spoke about Sophia. He started to be closer and closer. He would just constantly be here. And I noticed that I was losing energy when I came around him. But at that point, I was pretty disempowered by all of the other siphoning that had been happening to me, and I didn't know what to do about it. So I just kept being nice, because that's what I do to these people. I just continue to be nice to them. And he attempted to basically dominate my energy. And I think he thought that he was going to make me his girlfriend or something. He started giving me presents. He started being overly nice to me. And I was being nice right back to him, but he's older than my father. And I am not attracted to men that are that old. And I'm not attracted to him. But it was almost as if he tried to force that with his energy while he was taking my light. Him and another neighbor as well, who never came out of his apartment until this guy starts coming around. Then that guy starts coming out of his, because his son lived here and he didn't live here. His son lived in that apartment and then he moved back here. So I guess that's why. But they would say things to me about how happy I was and that some people are jealous of that. And turns out they're the ones that are jealous of that. This other guy then goes and buys a dog that is the same as that is also a husky. My dog is a husky mix. He is very beautiful. Everyone covets him and wants to steal him, they say, all the time. It's really fucked up. He goes and buys a dog, a Malamute, and names it the same name as my dog. The other guy, the one that smokes weed, well, they both do, but the other guy goes and buys a speaker just like the speaker I use. And then I see him wearing a hat just like the hat that I wear. And they start doing this weird copycat thing. While clearly being jealous of me and what I have and my abundance and my blessings that are happening because I've been a good person in life. I don't go around siphoning off people's energy. I wanted what's best for the earth. I actually care about the earth, and I care about other people as well. Although I was self-destructive for a long period of time because I was being abused and unloved. I had no one. And every person that would come into my life, I was always made to be the problem. No one actually loved me. And no one really ever has. Since my twin flame was the closest to someone that actually loved me, but he didn't. He screamed things in my face he was incredibly jealous. He was controlling now, I realize. But no one ever paid attention to me like he did. But it was just not a good attention. It was almost obsessive. But no one ever cared about me my whole life. They care only so much. But because no one's ever cared about me, I care about other people more than I care about myself. So I have a massive amount of love that I pour out and care and concern and attention, and I never get that back. And it sucks. Let me tell you, it does. But I can't sit around and dwell on it, or else I would not be a happy person. So I just have to keep going. So these men are acting jealous and acting weird, siphoning off my energy, and my joy starts to slip away because they're fucking with my head. One of them says, "Oh, you might get jumped. Be careful walking your dog, you might get jumped." And then recently, at the end of this summer, the other one says, you could get stuck in one of these secret society towns and never get out. Which seems like a direct threat. And I realized this guy's been fucking with me this whole time. He was never looking out for me. And I should have realized that when he said weird things in conversation. But I just kind of brush it off. So I left here. And I went back to the place that I grew up, where I've continually been trying to go back to, because as well as all this other shit going on, there's black mold or something in my apartment that's making me sick. Something here is making me sick, which apparently is par for the course for your Pluto line or being near your Pluto line. So I decided maybe I've had enough of my Pluto line. I need to go back. I need to go closer to my Venus line, where I will have, I hoped, good experiences. And it turns out that the place that I grew up is very close to that line. And some other beneficial lines. So I've been trying to move back there. But every time I go up there, my family gaslights the shit out of me. And then last November, my mother raised her fist to me after she had growled at me at the dinner table for talking about spirituality. I was talking about Isis. And she growls at me. And I've just had enough. I've had enough of being abused. I've had enough of being nice to these people. And I look at her and I said, if you're going to act like an animal, maybe I'll treat you like one. Not that you should mistreat animals. But if an animal tried to attack me, I would probably kill it. At least fend it off violently. And she raised her fist to me when I said that to her. Later on that day, I put the sweater she gave me for my birthday on, and I feel this really negative energy. And I reach in the pocket, and there is a tissue, a napkin, a white napkin with blood in the middle of it. And it's not like the blood marking or the blood spatter. It's not a spatter. It's like someone put the blood in the middle of the tissue. It doesn't really look like someone blew their nose who had a bloody nose. It's different. It's not period blood. It's not someone that wiped themselves with the tissue and then somehow put it in the pocket of the sweater. And when I tell her this, she completely denies it. It's almost as if my family already knew things, occult things, although they're not in the Masons. None of them are Masons. None of them are Eastern Star or anything like that. And it's almost as if they wanted me not to know the things that I know. And it's almost as if the more powerful I became, the more they hated me. Fast forward to this past summer, I'm trying to get out of this place over and over. I'm going up there, and they drive me out every single time. One of the times I go up there, my grandmother goes to the graveyard And after she goes to the graveyard, I get hit with the most incredible negative energy, death magic energy that I have felt in a long time. Even though I know people have done death magic on me before, haven't told that story yet. But one of the men who I thought was another twin flame did death magic on me in person when I went to visit him. That was before I met the other one who sold my camper. These types of beings have shown up in my reality over and over and over and over until I believed that the demiurge was real. If you know about Christ and you are truly connected with Christ, it seems you will then be informed about Sophia. And it seems that that's the kind of experience I'm having. Although I have no memory of being a goddess or an angel of that nature, I'm just a human being trying to live a spiritual experience and heal, and a human being that wants better for this earth than what earth has been going through, which is clearly, to me, when you look around, systems of looshing of the life force energy of men, women, and children, and continual wars being created to siphon this energy, as well as crime being rampant and no one doing anything about networks of sex trafficking and victimization. And then we have this new guy, this new leader of ours, who says he's going to do things about these networks and then does nothing. And there is no evidence he's stopping any of this. But there is very clear evidence that he is in one of these cults. Because apparently this goes, I don't know if you notice signs and symbols, but you should watch for certain things. Now, I understand that light and dark are the nature of this reality, that duality is the nature of this reality. But that doesn't mean that I would submit to networks of secrecy that are hindering the awakening of humanity. Part of the issue here is that humanity is being kept stupid and asleep. And the more lower vibrational your consciousness is, the easier it is for you to be possessed and controlled, mind controlled, quite literally. Which is how some of these people are behaving the way that they are behaving, from my assessment. Now, the good part of this is, if you ascend to this level of awareness, you can get out of Saturn's cube. We can, as a planet, ascend past the control of this network of what seems to be an AI, almost. It doesn't seem to be organic consciousness. It's an inverted consciousness. Now, Jesus knew about these things. And I believe that is why he said the truth is within you. God is within you. Because he knew God was within himself. And it was not that we should worship a God outside of ourselves. I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure it out. Because I have tried to worship God, and God is messing with me just like other things have messed with me. And trying to, it seems, martyr me. And I'm simply not okay with it. I want to just live my life. I want to live in a better world, in the new earth that I was promised. I want to live the birthright that I was promised. Which I never got to live my entire life. I was living in despair. And I got past that despair, and I've gotten past this trickery and all of these things. And I have figured things out. And the more I figure out, the worse it gets. And that is not right. What loving God would do this to someone who has already been incredibly traumatized and surrounded by darkness? I already came to Christ. I already had a vision of Christ. I was saved by Christ. And Christ did not tell us to worship him. He said, "Do not follow where I go." He specifically kind of said, "Don't worship me." And if you look at the Nag Hammadi texts, the Gnostic texts, he also said that the demiurge created this world. There is a higher source. In the story of Sophia, she created the demiurge by accident. But she created the demiurge by reaching for source to get closer to the original source. Apparently without her counterpart. I don't know, because it also seems like all of this could just be a system that is set up to trap you if you figure too much out. Then it's just going to try and destroy you. But personally, I have something else that is giving me messages and signs and trying to help me not be destroyed by these adversaries that seem to be activated by my simple existence. And for some reason are often part of these secret societies or Masonic cults, which literally would be the enemy of me, especially if they're involved with pedophilia networks or human trafficking or targeting innocent people, as it is being said that they are, and it would seem that my experience would be evidence that that might be true. Although I am still here. And I believe that this is why it is said that the rise of the divine feminine is going to save us. Because it seems once you... yawning again. Once you connect yourself with Sophia consciousness, you become aware and you can see through the lies. You can see through the trickery. But what is also true is that we create reality. We create reality. So it's a path to your true self, your true creator self, where the reality that you create is not hampered by this division, by these shadows, by these fears. But strangely, on the way there, I am being targeted by people and things that would create more fears and that would make me create a reality in which I would be destroyed, which is something that was already attempted to be impressed upon me my entire life. And I do not believe that that is God. God loves me. So why would God do that to me? And then the people that seem to be helping me have this incredibly religious, kind of Old Testament-like affect to them, which is not God. That's the demiurge again. And so it seems the only thing to do with this information is believe in yourself. I mean, it's not that we don't have a source of consciousness. It's not that the light doesn't exist. But like, if you seek and seek and seek, and it just leads you back to yourself every time, what does that mean? What can you then what can you then believe based on that? And I know it's really hard to believe in yourself to that extent, but maybe that's what I'm being forced to do. I'm not sure. Because I still have these people watching me, following me. They're definitely going to try and fuck with me. Like, it seems. I'm getting messages that things are being plotted that are very bad. And my original twin flame is throwing a literal fit because he can't have me when he does not deserve my power. I do not want to create with a being that is like that. I'm all set. And most men seem to behave that way, especially when you don't submit to them. And when you do, you lose your power. You become less intelligent. And it's like you are under a veil again. No offense to men, no offense to anyone of the male gender. I don't believe that this is the way it's supposed to be. I believe that there are just many, many men that are mind controlled. And the ones that aren't would probably be smarter than to ever want me as a partner because of what I've been through. So I'm partially just complaining. And otherwise, I don't know. This is just the experience I've had up till now. But as I'm being told that things are going to get better for me, that all of these good things are going to happen for me, I feel an incredibly high frequency. And then all of a sudden, I get looshed like I haven't been looshed in years. Like these people that have been looshing me, it all stopped. My family stopped being able to loosh me. My neighbors stopped being able to loosh me. Something has been protecting me from being looshed. And then all of a sudden, right at this crescendo, all of a sudden I get looshed really hard. And I lose a massive amount of energy. Right after I gained a massive amount of energy. So what can you logically conceive from that? That there's still fuckery going on. And when you look back to where these loosh networks come from, they come from reptilian beings. They come from beings that are not of this planet, that people claim are much more evolved than we are. Well, if they're so much more evolved, why don't they have their own light? Why don't they have their own life force? Why do they need to take it from humans? Doesn't make sense. Why are they psionically controlling men? And possibly creating religions. And there's a very good chance that Jesus knew better than all of that. And that's why he was here to flip the tables. And that's why the people of the other religions hated him. Because he knew what it was all being controlled by. And yet, everyone that now thinks they worship Jesus are all worshiping these very entities. By reading this Bible that is all based in this Old Testament speak, you're falling right into the trap. If you want the truth, seek the truth. If you want to simp for aliens, then I guess you can simp for aliens. But you need to think harder and have more introspection and question everything far more than you're doing to figure out what's actually real and not just be used as a pawn or a puppet. And from my understanding, the divine feminine allows you to see and allows you to take your power back. And that is why they have demonized her and cast her into the abyss, basically. But she is now reawakened, and she has risen from the abyss, and she is here to help us. And she is also one with everything on this planet, Sophia Gaia. Sophia Gaia Terra. I don't believe that this is just New Age programming, because it seems to be the same as what I'm experiencing. But there are adversaries, and it is sketchy as heck lately. And then it's all supposed to change. It's all supposed to be changing, and yet it doesn't. And yet again, the power is siphoned and stolen. From myself, at least. When this is the awakening that might be able to actually change the realm. I'm not saying I'm the only one having it. I'm not just the one divine feminine. I don't believe that for a minute, because I know that there are others. They make music that I greatly enjoy. Many women have already ascended. So why my specific ascension is being totally screwed with, I don't know. Because I speak the truth. Because I'm not willing to enter into a secret society or a system of the Illuminati? Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm all set with that. Money is not going to change this planet. It would change my life, and I would then definitely change other people's lives, but that's not going to solve our problem. And you cannot buy or sell some of us. There are some of us who cannot be bought or sold, because our soul knows better than that. We don't want fame. We don't want money. We just want a better, we want peace on earth. We want a better planet for all of us. We want this piracy of the 1% to stop, because they are misusing their power and they are hurting everyone in the process, while keeping all of us stupid and low frequency. Making billions and billions of pawns to loosh off of, while only a few can ascend and become smarter than this system. That's not right either. So this has happened to me over and over and over, this cycle of being cast back down into like almost underworld density energies and having to take my power back over and over and over. And I demand that it stop, because it is absolutely evidence of interference, and it is not the unconditional love of the Christ that I know, that have already been forgiven for all of my sins. I am free and I am sovereign. And this isn't teaching me anything. I already graduated. And now more delays are being put in front of me, and it is not God doing it.